Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. We're doing the iteration 205. 206.
206.
I don't know what number this is. Recorded on the 15th of August, 2016. My name is Josh Trelevin.
On the other end, Date Master Ryan Kirkby. So I was watching you.
Date? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was watching you on the date there. You got the year and the day right. You just got the iteration wrong. So that's not too bad.
Yeah, I thought you were when you said Date Master, I was like, oh, are you running the new dating game or something?
No. I just keep track of the numbers.
Okay.
But number tracker sounds like one of those bean counter sort of rules. It's just not as impressive.
You like Date Master? Well,
yes.
Okay.
But yeah, the Ides of August already. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The year. Yeah. I don't know what to say.
I'd like to say it's going by too fast, but then again, the amount of celebrities that have passed on this year, it's like I can't wait to get rid of 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're superstitious, I guess.
No, I just found it very disappointing in like the abstract terms of defining a year and what has happened in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I dig the paycheck every 2 weeks. I mean, that adds a lot of nice positivity to 2016. But I kind of miss Prince. Kind of miss, Lemmy Kilmister. I even kind of miss China. I know she wasn't doing stuff, but, didn't deserve going out.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah. I got a conspiracy notion for everyone this week.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a teaser, because we got a bit of a news story first. That's right, I'm teasing you with my conspiracy notions now.
Okay, so we're going to do... Okay.
We're going to do the news first, but I'm so happy that I have a conspiracy notion this week.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really do news, but I did come across an article.
Well, news pertaining to fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about this article I saw on, I think it came up on Reddit. It was posted somewhere else, but yeah, I saw it on Reddit. But Kung Fu Panda apparently is too good.
It is high quality production with a cast of celebrity voices.
Well, yeah, and it's a very good movie, good story, good animation, good everything like that. But apparently, over in China, there's been some critics. I forget who it was. I'll post the article so people can read it for themselves. But basically, Chinese critics are saying that Kung Fu Panda is so good and so such an iconic Chinese story that they feel very bad that it wasn't actually made in China.
The obvious answer, I think, for most people is maybe because of the heavy hand of the government. I think that's what they were implying. Yeah, was that there's not enough freedom or not enough whatever it is. Keep in mind, there's more creative freedom now than there used to be in China.
Yeah.
Not as much as there was pre-revolution. I saw some nice. I did see a documentary with some of the nice tapestries that they had shortly before, the communist revolution. Okay. And they were absolutely amazing, wonderful use of colors, and it really spoke of something like a cultural and artistic, almost like a renaissance happening. And then just no, communists now, got to keep things with a nice blank aesthetic. Which, don't get me wrong, the blank aesthetic has a beauty of its own, a very nice beauty. But it would be nice, or still, to have had both of them as options. Maybe somebody wants to do the blank aesthetic, somebody wants to do the tapestry full of, or wall scroll full of color.
Okay, yeah.
I think it would be nice for both, but they're still recovering from that initial sweep of and purging of stylists, and outside influences can't be used.
Yeah, maybe a little. But basically they were saying that Kung Fu Panda sort of represents sort of an ideal, Chinese, maybe Confucian a little bit, Confucian values. And apparently they did their homework when it came to sort of Chinese culture and representing sort of what it looks like to live in China. Well, that's the
thing. I mean, these days, if you want to utilize something like Chinese culture and you half-ass it, boy, are you going to get into a lot of heck.
Yeah.
I remember Blizzard getting some heck on this sort of stuff because of their Pandaren people.
Yeah.
Being a blend of Chinese and Japanese influences. Pandaren itself is Panda Ren, the Panda people, in the Japanese language.
I think Ren is also Chinese.
Well, that's the thing is the way it was going and the way they had it. It had air quotes too much Japanese influence on it.
Oh, I see.
Kind of like a just a grab bag of Asiatic stuff going on there, and like one that was finally released, as I'm sure you can see now, just how much they were able to solidify the example of it as being Chinese. But there was a lot of people saying like this isn't true Chinese. This is like a Chinese-Japanese combo buffet style going on here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it just occurred to me too that saying something has Chinese culture, I think that suits the current government of the People's Republic of China, because they sort of have the idea of we have one culture, we're one country, when in fact there are lots of little subcultures.
It's not just the People's Republic of China doing that one.
Well,
the Qin dynasty worked very hard at unifying things.
Yeah, sure.
Which is why it's called China, Qin. Like the name is actually, like for the rest of the world, is named after that dynasty. It's still Zhongwu over there, the Middle Kingdom.
Yeah.
But they managed to, so like don't just put all the blame about trying to make it one culture just on the People's Republic.
Okay. Yeah,
this is not just them, and it's not just a modern notion for them. The attempt to solidify the Chinese people as one cohesive people is a very massive undertaking that has been going on for literally millennia now.
Yeah. And there are a lot of, like, the main group of what we think of as Chinese, the Han Chinese. There are a lot of them, and they're
but they ain't everyone.
Culture. Yeah,
There's a lot of them, and that's the thing. It's like I'm always torn between that, because on the one hand, I can see the need for having an us, a solidified us persona for them to rally behind. On the other hand, it does them a disservice because of the wonderful, interesting nuances between the various peoples they've had historically.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I guess maybe it's a win-win. If they manage to say, like, we are all one people, then congratulations, you've managed to find solidarity. On the other hand, like, celebrating all the differences and saying, like, look at what all of us can do. So maybe instead of a we, there should be an us thing that there should be going for.
So I remember also reading about the Chinese government having sort of certain programs I think they put, like, the different ethnic groups from the country on some of the money. So it's like, here's our Mongolians on this money, and here's our, I don't know enough about China to know all the groups that they put on, but they have
here's our Shanghai favorites.
Yeah, they sort of officially recognize certain minorities, and I mean, it's not a perfect, like, it's a little bit like what we have in Canada. It's a bit of tokenism, and we occasionally have, people do a sort of ham-fisted attempt we're going to appeal to all the nations, and then they leave some out, and nobody's happy. But,
well, you can make some of the people happy all the time, and all the people happy some of the time, but you can't make all the people happy all of the time.
Okay.
It's a very powerful phrase that just a lot of people haven't learned yet, somehow, some way.
Yeah, but I wanted to say about that article that I brought up. They were saying that, it's weird that, like, our sort of a movie that sort of speaks to our culture and is very accurate and very iconic Chinese story had to be made in another country. And I was wondering if Canada has that with America making sort of the iconic Canadian film.
Canadian Bacon was made by Michael Moore, and admittedly he's very pro-Canada, but he ain't Canadian. Kevin Smith has done some weird yet very true to heart sort of Canadian-esque stuff.
Okay.
He's like from New Jersey, and that's like right across the border. So it's very close to Canada geographically. So it's kind of hard not to get a little cultural absorption going across there.
All right.
It's not an impermeable membrane hitting the border there, right?
Do we have like an iconic Canadian in the same way that Han Chinese sort of represents but also leaves out a little bit, but basically represents sort of a core Chinese value?
I think Canada is just so different amongst the areas that
we don't.
We did have beachcombers back in the day, and that was very good for the West Coast sort of lifestyle. More recently, there was corner gas, which very much bespoke of the heartland of the Saskatchewan
whichever
small
province
town.
that is. Oh, Saskatchewan. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been some nice stuff over on the East Coast too.
Because we have Anne of Green Gables. That was a series. Yeah?
There's been a couple series over the years. There's been the movie Bon Cop, Bad Cop. If you haven't seen it, oh my God, watch it. If you only know French, if you only know English, it doesn't matter. It's half and half throughout the language, and they'll subtitle the rest for you. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Bon Cop, Bad Cop because it does the Canadian, the dichotomy between French and English.
Particularly between the Ontario-Quebec thing, because the two most populous provinces right next to each other, often butting heads like a pair of rams.
Yeah, because that sort of defines a part of Canada. Although we don't have, like in the West, we don't have that same definition of. I mean, we
get
still
like
have
a BC
French
versus Alberta.
in
that case, it's a neighboring thing, not French English.
Yeah, well, we've talked about on the podcast before about that we have French-speaking people in BC.
They're just nowhere near as prominent.
Minority, yeah, like really small.
Yeah, you would do much better in BC to learn Mandarin Chinese than French.
Yeah, Chinese or even possibly Punjabi or.
I just went with Mandarin Chinese because that way we tie it back to China that way.
Okay, yeah.
Cycle things around, right?
But I did also want to bring up, I think there might be something to this in that it's easier to make a film sort of that represents, as long as you do your homework.
Yeah,
this is the other thing.
Definitely.
That represents another country. Like if you can be a foreigner and sort of look in on them, I think you get a sort of a more, broader picture of sort of the
objective perspective.
I think so, yeah.
As opposed to saying, like, is this really me? Is this like telling a story of me? Or is it just being like a shallow representation of me?
But the other explanation is just that the United States just has a well-developed historical film industry that just likes to reach out to for all sources and they
like
just
I
have
said,
the most money.
Here on the West Coast, you're better off learning Mandarin Chinese than French. So it's not as though they don't have a number of people to draw upon to say, like, hey, is this insulting to you, or is this all like decently respectful? Yeah,
that's true. There is a Chinese diaspora in the world that you can draw on.
So you do have those sorts of things to work with that China might not necessarily consider, because it's like, well, this is us. Like, if you want to ask me if this is good, just ask me because I'm here. Whereas like who that person is might not be the best objective perspective to look for.
Yeah.
On the whole thing.
Did you ever watch? Okay, I'm going to bring up a couple. Day of the Dead and Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre I have not yet seen.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I do Jack Black, I have not gotten around to being able to watch it or find it at the local library.
Do you think in a similar way that Kung Fu Panda represents China, we're talking Jack Black, so maybe there's a through line here, but Kung Fu Panda represents China. Do you think Nacho Libre represents Mexico?
Not all of Mexico, definitely, but maybe...
It's like an iconic Mexican tale?
Maybe not iconic, maybe more towards a light-hearted satirical thing of their wrestling culture.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like Michael Moore did Canadian Bacon, as I said, and his bit about, like, how much we love, hockey and beer sort of thing got mentioned in, like, a satirical thing, I guess for those sad people who have yet to see the movie, Canadian Bacon, the Americans are over in Canada, and they're watching hockey and drinking beer, and they say, it was a fun time, but the beer is horrible, and everything stops. all the players stop. The entire rink goes dead as one of the hockey players drops the gloves, goes over the top of the thing, just goes up the stands and starts wailing. And the whole notion about us loving our beer so darn much and being so happy with our hockey, it's not really true, sort of thing. You say the beer sucks and whatever, go back to drinking your American, like piss water, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to start huge fights over it, right? We're not going to have the entire rink go dead silent and have a single hockey player come on up and start wailing on you for it. But it does, have a nice satirical element of our culture that way. We are prideful of our beer. We do love our hockey. And so in that case, I think Nacho Libre is the same sort of movie in that regard.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
I don't think I've seen the iconic Mexican movie yet. but I would very much like to see it because I think there's enough of Mexico besides just what you hear in the occasional news story and what you see for like the occasional like a bit like Nacho Libre or some of the older Cheech and Chong skits.
Yeah. Well, I think Day of the Dead might qualify for what you're looking for.
Oh well, is that one of the zombie movies?
No.
See, that's why I had to like hold that one off before I can get the chance to ask and then proceed.
Okay. I think
that would be their culture that actually reveres the dead during the Halloween time as opposed to
it's kind of like Halloween, but
doing your candy thing.
Yeah. It's a good movie. I recommend it.
Oh, okay.
If you get a chance. Zoe would probably enjoy it.
I don't know. Like, I took her to Michael's the other day, and she was afraid of the Halloween aisle. They already got set up.
Okay.
So, apparently she's in that stage of being afraid of things. So.
Okay. Yeah.
She'll grow out of it. I'll give her another, month. She'll be fine. She'll be bold as everything.
Okay.
Kids. So I can see why the critics are critical of why it wasn't made in China.
Yeah.
And I can also see why America was able to get it so right from their perspective.
Yeah. I guess part of it is that just America has been doing wrong, cultural films for a very long time, and there are a lot of failures out there.
Well, here's the thing: is just last night I was browsing around online, and I found the old Disney song "Everybody Wants to Be a Cat," from the Aristocats.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a Russian sort of cat there, an Irish sort of cat there, and the accent was there, but otherwise they're decent cats. And then they had a Siamese cat that was cross-eyed playing a piano with his drums as they were his drumsticks as chopsticks.
Yeah.
And wow, that was there were some people in the comment section defending it, and the whole thing, it's oh no, it's he was doing that to parody his own culture. It's no. The guy who was doing the voice was not Chinese. He's the guy who originally did the voice for Tigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice Caucasian man. Very good voice actor, but not Chinese. And everyone gets up over the crows in Dumbo because, well, they may have sounded like stereotypical black men of the age. They were all white voice actors doing it.
Oh, I see.
But then you got people trying to defend this chopstick Siamese cat, pronouncing the R's as L's and just being a general goof. So yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to help make a little bit more of amends for how the portrayal is being historically.
Yeah.
That said, I will say it got started with the Kung Fu series on TV. They portrayed it very nicely and much more in depth than what you'd have seen historically, even some of the Bruce Lee films. So yay, woo! It's a long road, but it's coming on up. Right. And hey, and you know what? The more it happens, the more they give these nice, good, deep, rich portrayals, the more everybody wins because they're releasing really good, deep, rich, films, movies, and shows, and all that. So it's woo. This is the kind of reparation I would like to see everybody undertaking in this regard. Because, so long as you're producing something everyone can enjoy, that no one gets offended by, then everyone's winning. So it's yeah, go with that road. Don't just send out apologies. Make something awesome. Which is actually what Kevin Smith said this week. He was showing up something that his daughter had posted up an image on Instagram, and there was one person that so and so likes, and this one person anonymously posts up just absolutely horrible stuff. I hope you die, sort of stuff like that. And Kevin Smith's first of all, his daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, basically just laughed it off, saying he'd be she might be pretty bitter too if she was of looking as bad as this guy's image looked and had only an anonymous voice to voice complaints about.
Okay.
So I was well, congratulations, kid. That's a pretty good way to respond. It's yay, you understand that. But Kevin Smith blew me out of the water because he put it up on Facebook and all that, and we went out saying his thing was you know what? If you think you're so much better than her, do something, create something. If you think you deserve more attention than this person here who's making you angry, prove it. Don't just give anonymous hate somewhere and just I hate you, I hope you die, you're ugly. Go and prove to the world why you deserve to have them looking at you. Make whatever it is you think that makes you so great and put it out there for the world to see and show them exactly how awesome you are and how right you are that everyone should be staring at you. And I think that like I might have to like take that bit and like save it as like an image just for like whenever someone says Kevin Smith is a hack, it's like, no, this guy's got some deep wisdom going on him.
Yeah, you think that's inspirational, or?
Not only I think it's inspirational, it's a good positive spin for someone, like telling his daughter, I hope you like die and you're ugly. But it's something everybody should be thinking of, because it's not just enough to say like, oh, this celebrity, I hate this celebrity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what makes you so much better than this person? And if you really think you are better than this person, prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. Do that awesome thing that you think is awesome that everyone should be loving you for.
Well, as much as I want everybody to be artistic, I do.
Well,
I do
artistic,
think so.
Maybe mechanical. Maybe if you think you're like a great mechanic, then by all means, be the best mechanic you can be and fix the vehicles so well that everyone's probably like, I haven't had to take this vehicle in like 4 years. Not even for maintenance. It's all doing awesome.
I wouldn't say to that. I guess I wouldn't say.
I think everybody should try and achieve their maximum potential.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say shut up until you've done that. I'd like, although that was a particularly mean comment.
He didn't even say shut up. He said like, listen, if you think like this is true and this person doesn't deserve like a celebrity, then like show us why you're so much better. Admittedly, you can condense it down to a put up or shut up, a counter argument. Yeah. But his was so much more of a good positive spin on it. That I'm a Kevin Smith fan, but this raised my view of him.
Yeah.
Like, I'll admit, sometimes there's some things he's done that hasn't been as polished as it could be, but he keeps trying better. He keeps having more fun with what he does and putting out a product that says, this is me, this is why people should be paying attention to me. Even if it's crazy Bratzies. Like tiny Nazis made out of, like, processed, like, meats.
Yeah.
He does it, man.
I have just a weird question you probably don't even know the answer to, but have you seen the commercials for food? Is it called Food Fight?
Food Fight, or is that the Sausage Fest?
Sausage Fest.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, the one where it's just like animated, stuff when it's all sausages, like the life of a sausage.
Do you think it's weird that's coming out around the same time as the Kevin Smith film where they're fighting against animated sausages? I think
it's almost purely coincidental.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, sometimes, you'll see the fast food stuff, all of a sudden, Chipotle is a thing. Like, every place has got Chipotle. What's Chipotle? It's the new flavor of the season, right?
Yeah.
In which case, that I could definitely see being intentional. The head office of one, say, oh, they got a new flavor. What's their flavor? It's pretty good. Let's do something similar. I can see that. And there have been some movies that have been released similar, in style and design. Ants versus A Bug's Life.
Yeah.
Both, ant-based stories released around the same time.
Yeah.
One was good, one was excellent, and only time can tell the better of the two, right?
And two asteroid hitting the Earth films came out around the same time, too.
Although, to be fair, that's not, an incredibly uncommon sort of disaster notion.
How many asteroid movies have there been?
Including the old ones from the 40s, 50s?
Okay.
Like dozens. Like, that's a great way for getting things to happen. Asteroids, impact or near impact.
Really? Okay.
The original day, like Night of the Living Dead was a near impact with an asteroid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't.
It sprinkled some sort of radioactive something on there that caused the dead to come up to life.
I wouldn't call that because that's more of a zombie movie than an asteroid movie.
That's the thing, though. It's the effects of the asteroid, like isolating people and causing a lot of disaster. Is that any different from a bunch of zombies? Ultimately?
Yes. For the purpose of what I'm talking about,
Man versus nature versus man versus corpse reanimated? I will grant it to you, but I still will put in a point that there's a good connection I can make on there. But I will grant you this one.
Okay.
There's still been a number over the years.
Okay.
Where this sort of thing has happened. A lot more if you start including this sort of thing into the comic books.
Well,
like
no.
as I said last week. I mean, it was not an uncommon thing for the Martian Manhunter to save the Apex City from like another impact.
But has there been another big?
But those two released around at the same time may have tried to force the issue, like we'll release a little early versus we'll release a little late, to make it coincide, and then we'll take their audience.
Yeah.
Because some of these movies, get stuck in development hell for a long time. Like Cabin in the Woods, which is a great movie, was apparently made 3 years before it was released. And then Avengers came out, made $1 billion, and all of a sudden, we've got another Joss Whedon movie to show on the big screen. It's about a bunch of kids in a cabin in the woods. All of a sudden, it found its way out of development hell fast-tracked. And I think for good reason. I mean, I don't even know why it was even, stuck anywhere, man. That was a great movie.
Okay.
But, I don't work for Hollywood, so I don't know their ins and outs and their whys. But, yeah, there are times when things will happen because of other influences. So I'll grant you also that if you think it might be suspicious, then it's likely, not just a random chance occurrence. But in this case, I don't think there's a lot of overlapping, a target audience. Given that the Bratzies are one aspect of a Kevin Smith, Canadian trilogy film.
Yeah. And
the other is, was it Seth Rogen, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Seth
Who's
Rogen.
Been in some of Kevin Smith's films.
Yeah. But it's a Seth Rogen, adult animated, comedy film.
Yeah.
And that's the prime thing about it. I'm pretty certain that is coincidence.
Okay.
Because, let's face it, Kevin Smith was releasing on Kevin Smith time with the Kevin Smith schedule. So he's not holding it off to make sure it gets released out or anything like that, right?
And from what I remember, he actually does movies, or at least with Tusk, he started this thing where he does very rapid-paced movies, and he likes to film them very in a condensed, 2 weeks or something like that. Which
is a lot longer than the 6-week shooting time a lot of places, aim for. So it's like, congratulations on Kevin Smith for getting it done in a third the time, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's trade-offs, but it's his style, I guess, or his new thing
It's what he's comfortable with.
No, he just started doing it with Tusk. He just was curious if he could actually pull it off, like from concept to filming to editing and to release. It was a very
But if he didn't feel comfortable
process.
with that, then he would have slowed it down at some point because he had a lot of creative control over each end of it.
Yeah, but
so
I don't know.
if he thought it needed more editing, he would have given it more editing.
No, I'm sure, but the word comfortable, I don't know, because I believe that he was in some ways, pushing himself to excel.
Well, I'm thinking it wasn't someone else was pushing him. It's always nice for him to try and push himself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to consider that one to be aggressive. But when the executives are pushing it, and dude, you got to get this released in 2 weeks. Event Horizon was released in a very short time frame after principal filming was completed.
Okay.
And it was very much a forced thing that way because they wanted out now. They got to be out this time. We need a profit made back now, sort of thing.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, some of the test audiences on that one just whew. It's because the test audiences, it's like the stuff wasn't even done. Like the editing and the filming and all the stuff wasn't even completed by the time they were testing it on the audience.
So they didn't like it?
Well, yeah, there were some scenes that didn't have any sound. Yeah, you can imagine that was not well received.
Although for a space movie, that's a little bit.
But it was inside where there's air, so there's no excuse. So yeah, when an executive pushes you, I'm not going to consider that to be comfortable at all. Someone else is pushing. Kevin Smith pushes himself. Yeah, if he thinks he can, it's not going to be good doing it that way. He's going to take his foot off the pedal, so to speak, and slow it down. So in that case, it's still comfortable from my regards.
Yeah, although I don't know if the words good and bad sort of apply to Kevin Smith's movies.
As you said before, it's not movies for critics.
I'm not sorry I watched Tusk, but it doesn't feel like a masterpiece of cinema. But it was enjoyable.
It was very unique, and there's something to be said about that, and on its own terms.
But we did a whole discussion on Tusk, so people can go back in our archives and go listen to what we had to say about it. And
I'm still so happy you managed to get those, better names, Justin Long, and Johnny Depp on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know why too, because who else is gonna give you an opportunity? It's like, hey, like here's a script for a movie. You get turned into a walrus. Do you like oh, another one of those roles again? God, I had to turn down 4 of those turned into walrus roles last year. Not a role you're going to get a chance to get again. And as from an artistic perspective, yeah, that's got to have some extra weight to it. But no, because Kevin Smith goes on Kevin Smith's speed, it would have had to be Seth Rogen and like the executives above him trying to coincide it with Kevin Smith, and I don't think they're considered to be like equals competing in that regard. It's just like, oh, we got to steal the Kevin Smith audience and get some of our own thing in there. I don't think that's going to be like a competitive. We got to release it like a week before him sort of style.
Okay.
But good on you on spotting the trend on that one. The trend of like two connected intelligent sausage roles going on there.
That's 2016's trend.
At least it's 2 movies with a similar aspect, and that's
with something in common.
Spot
the pattern.
In a lot of times, that pattern will be purposefully done in the big screen movies.
Yeah.
So if you see it, then you're one step ahead of the audience member that's whatever. So, that means you're more actively participating in your fiction, and that's always good. So, yes. Long story short, answer's no.
All right. Fair enough.
So now we teased you guys long enough. Conspiracy Notion.
Up to Conspiracy Notion.
Conspiracy Corners by Ryan Kirkby. Josh, how many people do you think truly know and have memorized 75-year-old baseball stats?
100.
100 people? Or 100% of the people?
100 people.
Okay.
100% of 100 people.
Okay, good. That's not a lot of people, though. And let's say it's 100 people in America, and America's like, 300 million people?
Yeah, maybe 1 in Japan. The guys in Japan have memorized the Japanese stats.
Okay. We'll say 100 people over there, too.
Okay.
But if only about 100 people really know these stats, then some of them could be altered. And only 100 people would truly know that this is being done without going to some old archival records, right?
Well, they wouldn't automatically know that you'd altered.
Exactly, unless they see a difference, sort of thing I was looking through the microfiche, and apparently, this guy didn't score anything in this game. Why is he in the official records as having, gotten 2 runs in?
Well, first of all, official records, you have to go into basically archives in libraries and stuff and find every copy of, I don't know, are they in newspapers or what?
What's the thing? It's I went with microfilms or things.
Okay.
It's just still a thing that people use where newspaper print degrades rather quickly because of the quality of the paper that they use.
So picturing, so there's this the person who wants to do this tampering,
yes,
they have a fairly large budget, and they have their own laboratory and
might not even
forging
necessarily
materials.
Need to be that. All they'd have to do is for we'll say the almanac of sports, stats, is just be the editor, and then just slip it in and say, yeah, that's right.
Oh, before this year's version of the almanac gets published or whatever.
I don't even think it's yearly almanacs. I think they might only do it once a decade now.
Yeah, but what do you do about all the old records that already exist?
Ignore them. They're not the official stats. There've been things published wrong in newspapers before, and all you need to do is create that little seed of doubt anyways. If you keep this up, you put in the stats, you change it, and then make sure it happens again next time, and happens again next time. It's it says this one, but it's been saying this for 30 years now. So you get this difference of opinion between the stats.
Yeah.
And how many people are really going back on microfilm, looking up stats and comparing them with the official stat scores?
I guess, you wouldn't unless you had a really good reason to.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
So there's very little critical threshold of being able to, escape with this sort of thing. You could do it. It's just a very low bar as this stuff goes.
You could do it unless your motivation was something like to get away with some kind of crime or to invent a person to pin it on or something like that. Because
what if it was just I just felt like being a little shit today?
Well, yeah, I think nobody would probably find
one game, it doesn't have to be anywhere near the end where it's really important. It could be start of the season sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You put in something, just shave a point off one guy here. Instead of getting 3 runs in, he got 2. This other guy here, instead of getting 4 runs, he got 3. And then all of a sudden, bam, you invent a person that got 2 runs in throughout the course of the game.
But you have to get a job as the editor of the sports almanac.
Yeah, or be the archivist.
I don't know how they keep track of stats in sports.
Well, the thing is, you could be like the archivist who just gives the numbers to the editor. So there's a couple positions where you could be the guy, able to tamper with this stuff. You don't need to be some sort of stealth, like espionage agent sneaking in, like a Mission Impossible, like hanging off the ceiling, opening up files and tampering with it all digitally and stuff like that.
Have you ever seen a baseball scorecard before?
Yes, indeed. Back when I was young.
When they do the little symbols on there and K for strikeout.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And
I didn't understand all of it, but I do recognize the box scores and the stats when I see them, yeah.
Okay. Because they used to, and I think people still do this as a hobby, people who go to games will actually bring a scorecard with them and will fill them out and stuff. So I imagine, probably for every game ever played, there's probably at least one sort of official scorecard. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's, 2 or 3, for
fans.
Professional games. Yeah, fans who've done their own. So you could, or even journalists, so you could probably compare 2 or 3.
But how many of those fan
sources.
records are going to be kept 3/4 of a century?
Okay, we're talking about going back 75 years. I'm still not clear on your plan exactly.
Oh, it's just a thought that occurred to me. It's there's so little people that know and could show it wrong or even notice that it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's the bar for noticing that it's wrong would actually be higher than the bar for tampering it to make sure it's wrong. It's one of those weird things if you want to try and change your bank account balance, oh my God, the hurdle on that one's almost astronomical. The amount of information you'd have to forge and digital records you'd have to change in order to get the bank to say you've got more money than you actually have, that's horribly huge. Great in the fact that no one's making up money, right? But compared to something like baseball stats, fairly innocuous, doesn't change the outcome of the game. The numbers at the end, they all tally up the same as they ever were. But if you just feel I'll just make up a new person, I'll put them in here. They were in for they were a relief sort of person in for about 2 seasons back 75, 74 years ago, and then that's all they ever really wound up doing. You could do that. You can get away with that, right?
Yeah, if that's all you're doing, okay. Yeah. Okay. So conspiracy over?
No. Because who's to say this hasn't already happened?
It may have.
Because the bar is so much higher. You tell me that this guy struck 2 runs in let's see, wait, how far back? What year is 75 years ago now? It'd be 2016, 2021. So that would put it at 1941.
41.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you tell me that some guy got 2 runs in on a game in 1941. I have no ability to prove you wrong without a lot of research.
Wasn't 1941 though when they had a year League of Their Own, sort of when the women were playing?
I think that may have been towards 44 when the Americans actually.
Oh, that's later. Okay.
Yeah. 41. Yeah. That's one of the things. I watch movies from 1941, 1942, and I'm like, wow. It's America hadn't entered the war yet, but World War II was still going on. Hitler could have watched this movie. Oh my God. Yeah, weird thoughts. It's wow, 1936. My God, if H.P. Lovecraft hadn't been spending so much money on stamps, he could have seen this movie in the theater himself.
Right. Well, can I add a third act to your conspiracy theory?
Oh, of course, go for it. Yeah.
I actually think this probably does happen. Maybe not in baseball in particular, but there is such a thing as the Witness Protection Program, and the CIA invents fake identities. So they would have to. I'm sure this has happened in the past. People have created sort of fake individuals and then backstories, and then
put a real person to play their role.
Yeah, either put a real person or put a real person and said, okay, well, that's their reference or their family member that you can look up. So
that's the thing. It's just a few job references is one thing, and then giving them a bit of a line of credit sort of thing goes over there. That's not too hard to do when you're on the inside and in the position of power.
I think so, yeah.
It's heck, there's a system set up for it. So congratulations, you guys have a systemic way of doing that.
I'm but
not
curious.
The same sort of way of saying here is some records of your grandparents, because I'm pretty certain for the witness relocation stuff is your grandparents were just 2 nobodies that fell in love, had a kid, and that was your parent, who was also pretty much a nobody. Okay. You can make up fun stories about what happened, where you were and what it was like, but Like, who's going to say, oh, that person didn't exist. I remember being in, Cabot Cove back in the day. That person wasn't actually there. You aren't related to Jessica Lansbury at all.
Well, I can imagine that kind of happening, and then, I don't know.
I guess you got to relocate again. They did a bad job at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there's, like, good reasons to be doing this sort of stuff. And then there's, just because you wanted to reasons.
Okay.
Like, let's say you want to, alter some of the historical documents to put an ancestor of yours making part of the construction crew for the Mount Rushmore monument. He wasn't in charge of the thing. He didn't, design it, but he was one of the workers that helped, haul stuff in and haul stuff out.
So wait.
So all you do is change, a few pay records to say he was there.
Who are you? Are you
some sort of nut job, apparently.
Okay, and you just sneak into the National Archives or wherever they have.
Well, I mean, how well protected are the archives?
I'm sure you could get in, yeah.
For the records of who got paid how much for building the Mount Rushmore monument.
Well, I mean, they probably keep it with other archives that might be slightly more important, so they're probably somewhat guarded. But I imagine it's possible to get in there and steal or...
Not like a Nick Cage movie where you're going to steal the Declaration of Independence or anything like that.
Right. No, not quite that bad. But I'm sure there's security guards. But you could, if you're we're imagining you're a sort of a professional person for whatever reason.
Or at least forger, I suppose, in this regard.
You have skill in forgery and in breaking and entering. You have a budget. You can afford, night vision goggles.
I don't even think you need night vision goggles.
I don't know what you need to break in.
I think all you need to do is, find the passcode. And I won't lie, have you seen the one bit for Team Fortress? Where, they have to enter the code, 1111. Sort of thing, and it's the only button that has shown any wear and tear.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of places are like that. You go to My Business, you can tell what numbers are used. Not the order, but the number based on, the gradual accumulation of dirt and the wear and tear that happens for pushing a button so many times.
Yeah.
Twice a day over the course of 16 years or something like that.
All right. So you use that technique. Okay.
So you don't need the highest end of this crazy technology here.
Yeah.
To break in, and then once you're in, make sure the night security's gone home for the night.
So you break in, you steal the microfiche or whatever it is.
It might not even be microfiche. It might actually be just adding a line to a ledger.
Like it might be handwritten. It might be just a handwritten ledger.
I imagine they did a lot of handwriting stuff back, when they're making Mount Rushmore. There wasn't a lot of computers back then.
Okay. But I guess if future forensic people had to analyze it, which
they would be able to tell it's newer ink.
They'd be like, oh, this ink was made after 2010 because it's got this component in it.
Yeah, it's a different, carbon ratio mix, and it's got, a smoother blend of chemicals, and it hasn't degraded the paper quite so much. Yeah. But here's the thing. Paper ages. So all you need to do is get that little extra line on the ledger saying that you're, maybe not even a real ancestor, maybe you're a little fictional ancestor, got paid the same as everyone else did back in the day for hauling rocks, all the way from Mount Rushmore. And then once the paper gets old enough, they turn onto the microfilm and all that, and then it's kind of hard to tell the difference between one type of ink and another when it's just a photo image.
Yeah.
Or a scanned electronic copy. Not to say it's not impossible. I have seen some things where the different ink, will have different stuff. So you show it under a different, a chemical hue and all that stuff, and it'll CSI is showing it up as different. But it does get harder as time goes on, and you have to update the stuff and you transfer it from one media to another. So I'm just saying, the information you're presented out there, we all like to assume it's all true. But 1984, there could be some tampering of the historical facts.
Yeah, well, in
whether for great, grand, evil purposes, or for just shits and giggles.
Yeah, in 1984, there's a lot more of that. Pretty much everything is being rewritten all the time,
as need be.
Yeah, but you're talking about just a one-off kind of little.
Because it'd be easier.
Yeah,
it's a believable conspiracy thing.
Okay.
Now here's the bit. Is that the bit that got me on this is this would make a great story.
Would it?
Either somebody, for some reason, going in there and tampering with it to make it happen. We'll say for a noble purpose. I don't know what the noble purpose is. I'm not writing the story yet. God.
Okay.
But he's got a legitimate reason to get this person in the record.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think your story is that interesting until you come up with the good reason. But then once you have a good reason, then you might have like investigators or an antagonist, depending on which side of the coin.
Or maybe you work it the other way. Maybe the guy who wants to prove that like his grandfather isn't insane when he keeps saying that this person never existed. He never got a hit in. He was never at bat because he wasn't on the team. For the baseball scores.
Yeah, he wants to prove that his grandfather isn't crazy.
Isn't going crazy. And so there's a motive for him to try and figure out why this is happening. Why are the stats, this way? And then you look over at some of these older records and they show that, like your grandfather says right, whereas the official stats for the last 30 years have said otherwise. What's going on here? Yeah. So maybe that's a bit more of an interesting angle for you? With a bit more of gotta prove it right. It's vested interest.
Yeah, as long as we have sort of some kind of motivation and somebody actually with a reason to look at records. But yeah, it reminds me a bit of like Fight Club or those movies or stories where bureaucrats will work in an office with microfiche, and just because they're so bored out of their minds, they'll just I'm just gonna add like just for fun, like here's Mickey Mouse in this list of people who worked on this. Yeah.
But well, keep in mind, one of the greatest things I've ever seen was, written was out of boredom.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. On the walls of Pompeii, there is graffiti that says, "Everyone writes on the walls but me." And it got preserved because, like the volcano, like Pompeii exploded.
Yeah, okay.
I find that to be hilarious. Somebody just got bored, says, "Everyone writes on the walls but me," and then it got preserved for like 2,000 years. It's great. It's a nice dry wit. I mean,
I like it.
It's nice to know that dry wit existed back then, and there's some good proof of it, right?
Yeah.
So hooray! But yeah, so like sometimes just out of boredom, these things happen and wind up, becoming prominent. Sometimes, perhaps, no one ever catches it, and it just becomes a thing that everyone suddenly assumes is real.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So there's a bit of a conspiracy notion. So how do you know this isn't something created up?
Yeah. Well,
you could put it as a more like historical record. Like, let's say someone is compiling up a history of like a scientist and all that, and they decide to give one famous, or it's not quite famous, but like a known scientist a middle name. And like Tycho Mickey Brahe. Yeah, his middle name was actually Mickey.
Okay.
There you go. And if he's the guy who writes it, and then everyone starts copying that information source, all of a sudden it's like, how do you not know? It's like there's a long string of information sources, and then there's just this one here, this older one, just doesn't have a reference attached to it as to where they got it from. And that's the thing, like with urban legends, like having to track down like where you heard it from, where's the reference source. And without everything being properly referenced as to where you got the information to track it back, things get really difficult to prove whether or not something happened or didn't happen.
Yeah,
Assume
but
on the
not
side if it didn't happen when you're working with urban legends.
It's very difficult to prove that something didn't happen when you don't know what you're looking for. Like you don't know that you're looking for fake. Well, even if you know that you're looking for a fake person in this, you have a 1,000-page ledger of like baseball scores from the
1941.
And if you know that you're looking for a fake name in there, and you spend enough time on it, I imagine using science and engineering and analyzing stuff, you could probably find what you're looking for. But you can't find what you're not looking for.
Which is why Snopes has problems with some urban legends, especially the ones that have been going back for like 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to find that original source to figure out what the heck's going on with the story.
Yeah, but
here's the thing: it's like how many people care about like this change in the stats in 1941?
Well, not me, but
if it didn't change the ultimate outcome of anything, and everyone who was invested in it has since passed on, like, is the grandson of the baseball player who got 3 points instead of 4 now, according to the stats, really going to be all that uppity about it? Like, what does it really change?
Yeah, not...
Exactly.
Well, that's the point, yeah. So
the amount of effort to find and correct this problem is higher than the amount of effort to cause this problem.
Okay, yeah.
Which is where this sweet spot exists in this conspiracy story. It's finding that bit where it would be so easy to make the difference and so hard once it gets ingrained to change or realize that it's even an issue. So next time you're looking at information, old information, obscure information, ask yourself, how can I tell this is really what happened? How can I tell this is really true? How can I tell somebody didn't muddle up the data?
Well, the thing is, there are ways to find sort of, especially the more you accumulate.
But it's so much harder to find it than just to accept it.
The more data you accumulate and the more things you bring in, the harder it is to sort of fake all of this, big chunk of history. Like if you were to fake that baseball was even a sport,
trying to fake baseball is a thing.
Or what about this? Like invent a new sport and say that then the whole nation loved this sport for a couple of years.
Ball.
But then baseball decided that the big bosses of baseball decided they didn't like Learns ball, so they actually had a campaign to shut it down and hide it, but sort of, we've rediscovered it or whatever.
I think that is a good topic for a story as well.
Okay.
The sport that got killed by baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just tell a little, a time period story about, how it's a good game, but it was on the wrong side of politics.
Yeah.
Didn't have enough allies.
Yeah.
And thus it got canceled.
And, I wouldn't be surprised if this is probably, there
probably are sports out there that are perfectly fine little games that just never managed to make it up that big like baseball or lacrosse or basketball or anything like that.
And there have been what is it, the football XFL, was it? The Extreme Football League? So there have been, experiments at trying new versions of sports or new leagues for a sport and stuff. But I guess a league is something interesting because it sort of grows a little bit gradually. It
should grow gradually. Trying to force it is kind of like pumping steroids into something. It just kind of produces something a little crazy.
Yeah, and it seems to grab an existing sort of sport that already sort of has a lot of popularity.
Well, the Ultimate Fighting people managed to nab from boxing, wrestling, and various other similar ring-based sports.
That's
to make the octagon.
Yeah. Yeah, that
I was a little surprised it's managed to have as much lasting capacity as it did. It's okay, that's not bad, It'll probably go away in about 5 years, like most other new sports. But UHF has managed to stick it out.
I think that would be an interesting challenge to invent a new a new baseball or a new hockey, a new football, a new because all of those games were invented at one time.
I would like to have it where two teams compete with each other against some sort of objective, like watermark, high source. So that way it's less town-based rivalry and more our team's good, but man, when those guys from Detroit get here, we rock it out together, man. Something like cooperative mountain climbing? I don't know, I'm just throwing something up against the wall on that one. Hopefully not literally. That's how you start it. You start with like a catapult, and you just launch the guys up against the rock face, and you just throw stuff up against the wall, see what sticks, and climb from there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Maybe let's abandon that sport right now.
What about a game like Ultimate Frisbee though? It was invented, I don't know, in the 70s or was it more recent than that?
I think it might be a little bit more recent for officialness.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain people were playing stuff like that back when.
Yeah, but that's a relatively new sport that sort of has to grow in popularity before people are like, should we have a league for this? Or I don't know. There probably is an Ultimate Frisbee league.
Not a pro league.
No, right. No. But yeah. Anyways, but that went.
That was a good tangent sort of thing. It's a notion because a lot of people have to come up with a sport to really make a setting. Something what sport would wizards play? And all of a sudden, bam! It becomes a thing. Harry Potter's the catcher and yay, he wins the day, right? And next thing you know, you got people running around with brooms between their legs. It's a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a bit of a conspiracy notion. Like next time you're looking at something obscure and fairly inconsequential, how easy would it be to change this? How hard would it be to fix it? And how do you know it hasn't already been changed?
Okay.
So, one part conspiracy, one part critical thinking, right? Keep aware of what you're looking up and like the value of it. Right? So I liked it, and like if someone wants to write a story out of like any of our potential topics, that I go for it.
Okay.
Free use, public domain ideas. What you done this week, Josh?
Well, a lot of. Let me see. I'll start with I watched Event Horizon.
Yay! Yeah, because that's you mentioned that before the podcast. That's why I mentioned it as a reference for production speeds.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I will give it an 8 out of 13 dwarves. So still good, but yeah.
Apparently, you would give it another 2 dwarves if you know more about the Warhammer 40k universe.
Okay. Well, I don't. So.
The rules for how to go through the warp space work very well with this. So some people get an extra kick out of watching Event Horizon and imagining it as humanity's first attempt at trying to go and navigate through the warp without a proper astro beacon. And thus it being like a 40k spiritual prequel.
Okay.
They get a little extra kick out of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess what I didn't like so much was from what I saw, it was very science fiction-y, or at least tried to be sort of realistic and science fiction-y, with a couple of references to like spiritual stuff and stuff. But then they were like, oh well, it's not actually. It's like they're saying hell is a metaphor for where the dimension where we went or whatever.
Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, spoiling.
But that's the thing is like a lot of people in this day and age do think like hell isn't a place you can actually go to. It's not like Dante's Inferno. You can like walk there by going underneath, in the right cave, right? Hell is a state of torment by virtue of the fact of you being out of grace with God and thus all that is right. You are in hell. Because being against the flow and fabric of what is right in reality, you are therefore in some innate form of torment.
Yeah.
Which I think that's a great concept of like why should I follow this? Because if you go against it, then you're innately fighting everything that is, and and you're suffering for it.
Yeah,
I don't have to suffer.
The torment in the movie is, I don't know. It's sort of it's confusion, and obviously some people get like killed and stuff.
Well, it is a horror movie.
Yeah.
Almost all good horror movies involve at least 50%, cast mortality.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to rate it higher myself. I do get the occasional urge like, dude, I just want to watch Event Horizon. Just like toss it on the TV, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah.
It's one of the ones where it's like, it's not so deep that or scary that it like traumatizes you. It's like, God, I can never go back and watch that movie again, never again. Oh my God. And it's entertaining enough that it's one of the movies where you'll kind of catch, like, I wouldn't mind having this on in the background right now while I'm doing some other stuff, putting around the house, doing a little cleanup, having Event Horizon on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very nice sweet spot in my mind for, like, how much I enjoy a movie. Some movies you got to sit down and watch. Some movies you're okay with just, like, listening because you got the scenes in your head, right?
Yeah. Well, so I would recommend it. I like Eight Dwarves is still pretty good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's worth watching. But yeah, some of the parts it didn't seem to work for me, the sciencey stuff. If they had like gone more into, I don't know, if it had been more supernatural or stuff, I might have been able to buy into it.
So a better director's cut would have been more appreciated.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
The director's cut was impossible. For some reason, the company producing it decided to put the original tapes in a salt mine in like Eastern Europe. Like I'm not making that up to the best of my knowledge. I don't know, maybe that information's made up, but that's just what I've been related to by the guy who directed it. That's where he said he found the original copy when he
told you this?
Back. Yeah, it was in part of like the extra features they had on it.
Oh, in the extra features of the video. I thought you were like, yeah, he told me personally. I met him. And
dude, I know, like, we were sitting down at lunch one day, and he was telling me the crazy stories. Like, you'll never guess where I found the original tapes. I'm like, where? And he says, a salt mine in Eastern Europe. And I was just sitting down there, just like in the depths of darkness. I'm like, that's a great spot to be storing like crazy movie notions, right? But like, come on, man, store them better than that.
And also, like, when a ship like comes alive or has a personality, like I've been thinking, like, I would like to write my own version of the Ship is Alive movie. I think it needs a bit more personality than just evil or just just malicious.
Malevolent for the sake of malevolence.
Yeah, like
why is it?
Yeah.
Well, there is the fact that the ship's shape is effectively based off of stuff like the Notre Dame Cathedral. Mm-hmm. So you could make an argument about the unholy. Make an argument about the unholy nature of its very construction design, and that anything in that sort of shape, and having the same architectural harmonics, will wind up becoming evil.
Yeah, sure, something like that.
So I wouldn't mind seeing that as an argument. Here's the thing: this is Hollywood. We'll give it 15 years. They'll do a remake, and we'll see how that one is.
Okay.
Maybe somebody gets it. Maybe they release it. It'll be a 3-hour epic that'll absolutely blow our damn minds.
Yeah, it might. I was gonna say, for example, like the kind of personality that I like in a sentient ship or computer is the GLaDOS from Portal.
Oh,
like
okay.
that's the kind of personality I would want.
Okay.
To have.
Crazy, but like for all the right reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, have you watched Lex?
No.
Oh, okay. In that case, try for that. The ship itself is sentient.
Okay.
And biological.
Okay.
So it needs to consume planets as well as just destroy them out of because that's its duty.
Okay. Cool. All right.
That and like nipples, fun story, Canadian actors, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one other thing I did this week was Dwarf Fortress.
I
played more Dwarf Fortress.
How was it?
It was. I did have fun. Yeah, I did enjoy myself.
So you lost.
I had to restart several times. Like I'm still not.
Yeah. One of the greatest things you can do in the game is change the init files to make sure that it saves every season automatically for you.
Yeah, I might have to start doing that. I'm not quite ready to. Like, I want to sort of play legitimately. At least. I guess I don't know.
What's the thing is like I do a little bit of save scumming for when I'm testing out some artifact stuff. In most cases right now it's just useless artifacts. It's like, oh boy, do I get an earring I can't use or a scepter I can't use? Doesn't really matter, the same price either way, and it just winds up sitting in a same chest or a bin, and doing nothing either way.
Alright, yeah.
But other people do it for very good reasons to try and test out stuff. It's like, okay, can I build this over here? What happens if I try doing like the structure in this configuration as opposed to like type B or type C? And Dwarf Fortress is a game where knowledge is a very precious commodity, and it's not something you can buy off the traders. It's something you got to put in by playing it.
Yeah.
So, having that backup of your save to try it again a little differently and see if the outcome winds up becoming at least marginally better, not a bad notion.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is now the world I have several abandoned fortresses now there that I could probably find again, right?
Oh, well, yeah, you can reclaim the forts at a later date. Side note, most of your stuff that you left there will wind up being blinged out. Apparently dwarves like to decorate stuff like that. Oh, wait, did you abandon a fortress or just retire it?
A couple of both.
Okay, the retired ones will be blinged out. The abandoned ones will have everything everywhere. Depending on how big your fortress was, expect about a year's worth of cleanup. There'll be socks everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dwarf Fortress. Was there something else I did in Dwarf? What am I currently working on in the current world? Basically,
trying to keep the were creatures from killing everything?
Yeah, I had to start again. I have a nice new area where I'm trying to keep everything on a different level. Like the top level is farming, the next level is also farming. Actually, no. Well, surface is surface plants and surface farms. Mm-hmm. Then directly below the surface, I have like an sort of empty for like a fungus just.
You do need to breach the caverns to get the fungus stuff to grow, but yes.
Okay, well, for some reason it's growing there. I don't know.
In that case, you might have a natural cave somewhere. But if you've breached it and you've got stuff growing up underground there, like the mosses, then congratulations.
Okay. Yeah.
You've got it going.
Okay. The second level, I'm just going to leave natural fungus, basically, so I can harvest that when I need it.
It is good for grazing, especially with some of those subterranean... any creature can graze on it. You don't need a subterranean creature.
Okay, that's good to know, too. Then let's see. Next level below that is storage. So all of my stockpiles, at least for now, all of my stockpiles are on that level. The third level below that is workshops, and then below that is meeting space and living space.
Oh, very nice.
I think that's all of it. Yeah.
And you don't really need not much more than that sometimes. If you're happy playing that Fortress, go for it.
Yeah.
If you want to dig down to the third level of caverns to find the weirdest, craziest things the programmer has thought up, go for that. Man.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that I'm having trouble, the hurdle right now is getting past were creature attacks and goblin attacks.
Admittedly, those are not small hurdles.
Okay.
So, congratulations. That said, if you can get the were creatures under control, and get your goblin sieges, managed. Goblinite, as they call it, or Goblin Christmas, is a great source of materials.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you kill the goblins, you take all their loot, smelt their stuff down, and make stuff out of the metals, because they'll bring you metals. They call it, it's Goblin Christmas, man. Look at all these presents.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, mining Goblinite is a very profitable source.
Yeah.
That said, I've been told in the current versions, Goblin Sieges aren't as prominent as they used to be. It used to be that a Goblin Siege would be created out of thin air and just come. So you could get 4 Goblin Sieges a year sometimes that are goblins just poof out of nowhere.
Okay.
Whereas now they're more likely to be created out of existing populations. So once you whittle down the population, you're gonna find that there's no more goblins left to attack you until they breed some more.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. So that's what I did this week.
But I did. I was a little sick this week. So I didn't get as much Dwarf Fortress in as I would have wanted. But I did manage to go onto the Marvel Avengers Alliance and play every day. Because right now their PvP tournament gets you lock boxes. 10 lock boxes gets you guaranteed chance at a cover. You collect 8 different covers and you get a new character. And my daughter really does love the lock boxes opening. It's like a blind bag stuff, and she loves opening blind bags.
Okay.
I have noticed with this time around though, I do get duplicate covers. But along with that, because when I open up 10 boxes at once to guarantee I will get 1 cover, so I only ever open up in groups of 10, there are 9 other things that open, and they've traditionally been just worthless things like gems I have no need for, items that are so underpowered I just will sell them off because, otherwise, what else is there for them to do? They're vendor trash. But this time around, I've been noticing some good gems, some interesting things like, ooh, this turns all of my attacks into magic attacks. Who would benefit from having some fun? Or not just benefit, who would be the most fun having all their attacks be magical? Should I make Wolverine be a magical Wolverine? Maybe. Right now, for no other reason than why not, I've got War Machine with that gem slotted in. So it's hey, War Machine, now when he blasts everybody with his, his attacks that decimate the entire group, they're a magic attack too. Why not, right? Until I find someone better where it fits. And stuff where it's okay, now when the Human Torch blasts out fire, he applies in hell, he's soul fire, and a death frost at the same time, and apparently they can stack up. So he's even more, he's a 3 debuff instead of just setting you on fire. It's fires. Hell fire and this horrible Arctic burn that gets you all at once. It's woo. So fun. It's nice silver place prizes. So I'm not getting what I really want, but I'm not unhappy with some of the stuff I got. So it's nice to get that. Nothing unique or overpowering, but still, ooh, this looks like I could have some fun with it.
Cool.
Good secondary prize. That said, as I said, I got some food poisoning this week. Wasn't feeling well at the end of Tuesday evening, and I went to work on Wednesday. And I probably should have phoned in sick.
Oh,
and that's the thing that got me, because it wasn't until Saturday that I wound up even feeling back towards myself again.
Okay.
Poison is a very hellish little thing.
Ah, yeah.
And I like 5th edition, but I'm not certain after the end of this week if just saying poison is a damage thing, if that's good enough.
5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
we're
5th
on to
edition
that
D&D. utilizes poison as a damage type. The same way that the Diablo series has done it. Fire damage, electricity damage, poison damage, they're all different damage types.
Yeah.
Resistances and immunities and all that.
And it just hits your hit points.
Yeah.
All of them hit your hit points. And depending if you have an immunity or from a spell like a resistance to poison spell or something like that.
Or something like your species, like Medusae are immune to like the poison from their snake hair.
Okay, although in 5th edition I don't think you can play as a Medusa.
No, but it's just something stated. Like if you have a poisonous attack, you are immune to that poisonous attack.
Okay, yeah.
So that way, we'll say a Naga of some kind can't bite its tongue and die.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense, I suppose. But yes, I do prefer the stat damage and the other effects that 3rd edition gave, as opposed to, admittedly, simpler and easier to work with damage, like off the hit points in 5th edition. I think after this bout of food poisoning, it doesn't really get the point across of what it's like to be poisoned.
Okay, yeah. Because you lose, dexterity? You lose constitution?
I lose concentration.
Okay.
I had a very hard time keeping as much information in my head as I could when I was trying to, keep the pain from overwhelming me and doubling me over. Because, I get into work on Wednesday, someone else has phoned in sick as well. Don't worry, not food poisoning for them either. It was an alternative issue.
Okay.
But they wound up, phoning in sick, so I wound up taking 2.5 hours off of their shift and adding it to my own. When I probably shouldn't have worked even a single hour. It felt like a big old knife, just right underneath my belly button.
Ooh.
It was horrible. And yeah, there was a lot. I was a shadow of who I was as a person, character, wise. And I was definitely not running around like I normally am able to. But the thing is, it's like I wasn't even feeling like the concept of having food even near me was revolting. That's how I knew it was definitely food poisoning. Because if it's something like, oh no, like my appendix has burst, it doesn't make you feel nauseous to eat food apparently. So it's like, oh, I don't know, it's not something like I'm bleeding internally here. It's like, no, the concept of food is disgusting you. And I haven't felt this bad about the concept of food entering in to my digestive system since I got alcohol poisoning, and that goes a number of years back. So it's like how in the game stats, how would you want to represent the fact that you're going to wind up getting weak from not eating? I spent 2 days where I had almost nothing to eat this week.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, loss of appetite.
That's the thing is, it'd be like a constitution check just to keep any food in me. There were sometimes I had 3 crackers, and it's like, oh, I need to vomit now. That's too much, man. I can't handle these 3 crackers.
Yeah.
In which case, there might be an argument made about vomiting up when you've got a bit of food poisoning.
Well, I think
to get it out of your system at least at some point.
3rd edition had rules about starvation.
Yeah, and there's rules for that for 5th edition too. But there's no rule about you've been poisoned and now one of the side effects is that you can't eat, so you're gonna have to start starving until you can get through with this.
Well, maybe that's just an oversight in the rules, because that sounds like it'd be a good.
I think it's a willing simplification, is what it is.
Okay.
5th edition needs to be smooth and streamlined. That was one of their goals.
Yeah.
Make it as nice and smooth and quick as some of the earlier editions. And I suppose they can always make a splat book for more complicated poisons and making it more of a big thing in your campaign. If you want to do a poison themed campaign, go for it. And there's a nice way of expanding out what poison does to you. But for most games, just take an extra 4 hit points.
Yeah.
So I can see why they did it, but it definitely seems like they did not give credit to what poison can do to a system. My legs are still tired off of this because I could feel the lack of protein in my system, just weakening me. From the lack of food, just slowly just weakening me on the system. The sore legs and the sore muscles on there, they're not from the poisoning itself. They're from the after effects of the starvation of not getting the protein in my system and what it does when you just stop eating altogether for a day or two.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let me ask you this: what about just the DM just having the reins to describe? Because when you do hit point attacks, oftentimes like the DM will describe, oh, well, that hit you in the leg, and later on you get a healing spell cast on you, and oh, he's like, yeah, the cleric wraps up your leg in a holy bandage and lays on hands on it, and it's healed, or whatever. So in the same way, you could say, oh, well, you take 6 points of poison damage this round, and then later on you get a healing spell, and they're like, oh, well, and you find that the fever is going away,
the
and
pain in your stomach finally subsides. It's like a knot of muscle slowly relaxing from a massage.
Yeah, and this is all flavor level stuff, but you could do it.
But that's the thing is like if nausea has stat-based stuff connected to it, and what you can and can't do, and how difficult it is to concentrate on that one, you know, and all that stuff. I think poison should definitely have some nice rules on that one.
Well,
too.
do poisons also cause nausea sometimes?
Food poisoning does.
No, in the game, like in D&D.
I suppose if it's an ingested poison, you could make a very good argument for it.
Yeah.
If it's an injected poison, like like those darn drow elves with their arrows, I could see it causing an itching, burning sensation. God, it's like a mosquito bite times 1,000.
Yeah, plus that arrow.
Well, once you get the arrow out and all that, it's like it's like you'd even have like an old adventure, like a retired adventure, like your guys are at the inn, they're gonna go down into the Underdark, and he's talking to you, and the entire time he's itching his forearm as he tells you what to worry about, and he ends off with, and watch out for their poisonous arrows, the itch will never stop. That's all fluff, but at least it really sells the point of what it's like, and boy, you're gonna start listening to this dude, right?
Yeah.
So in which case, invest in like a silk cloak. There has been some historical stuff about silk being able to just pop the arrow out that way.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So, woo! More fluff on that end, right? Yeah. Plus, silk, cape, silk robe, man. Go into the Underdark in style.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe the Dark Elves aren't the ones that kill you, because like, ooh, everyone else is in this, creepy little wool thing. Eek, such peasants, but this guy knows style. He must be their leader. We'll keep him for later. Which,
is that what you want?
Well, I mean, like, death is
I guess, you can't get out of being dead. But
well, D&D, you can, to some degree. But, like, if you're alive, that's another day to get out of whatever else they're doing to you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, like this poisoning thing was just like, I can see why Game of Thrones, they relate it to the lesser sort of people. I'm not happy that they say it's a woman's weapon, a weapon of the eunuchs and all that, because it's like, dude, I don't see it as a. I see it as poison as being a nice way of the underclass. You might not be able to afford the big army to take over the land. You might not be able to, have the influence to, steal the land. But you can poison a well pretty well easily. Right? You can see where this is going from, right? Yeah. If you need to get rid of the people from an area and you don't have the thing, you're the underdog, well, you can just drop trouser and just, release everything you've got in the back end down the well.
Well, I will say, though, about that, I mean, yes, it causes a lot of issues, but poison is
I can see
it's
why
often ineffective. It's easy to miss with poison. It's easy for them, hey, this smells weird. I'm not drinking that.
That's why you put it in someone's beer or wine, so that the other odors and aromas will mask it.
Well, and you need to be
and then hell, by the time they do realize there's something weird about it, they're already drunk. So, you're drunk, whatever. Okay, you're
yeah, but you need to be an expert poisoner in order to know which ones will work in beer and wine, and will not be noticeable, and will have
or trial and error. Yeah, I won't say like a poison master or an expert, but you do need to put in a little trial and effort to make sure you know that you're going to make it work right.
And often, sometimes a poison, well, sure, it'll make someone sick, which might accomplish your goal. But if you're trying to poison a guard or somebody, or poison, I don't know who, but yeah, you're like, okay, I'll poison this person, and then they just get sick and they're out for a couple of days. Well, maybe that accomplishes your mission, but maybe there's just, we'll just call the other guard in because that guy's sick. We'll just have another guy. So it doesn't.
But
kill.
The thing is that other guy. Is he as good as this guy? Maybe you poison the right guards to make sure that the best that they have aren't available. So that way, all you have to do is sneak around like Biff the replacement guard.
Yeah, and I guess that in D&D, that's why their poisons have difficulty checks or what it.
There's D2 checks for saves and all
saving
that based
throws
on their difficulty. Yeah.
Because the poisons are not necessarily reliable. I guess neither is a sword.
Yeah.
You have to attack somebody with a sword.
Typically, there's a 50-50 chance of failure, and if poison works out with 50-50 odds, it's still pretty good. I can't understand why the Bible originally had that you can't let anyone who poisons another person live.
Oh, yeah?
They changed that in the King James thing to witch. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
Oh, really?
It was originally
poisoner.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I guess, granted, from their perspective, well, I guess witches do evil things. Evil people poison stuff, so therefore all witches are poisoners, right? The crazy logic they like to use.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see a very good, that's a real good advice. If you poison someone, no, that's a death sentence. Because, I gotta say, after this week, dick move, buddy. That wasn't even a lethal poison I got in my system, and that was a hell of a dick move.
By whoever poisoned you?
Probably myself.
Oh.
But, it was just oh my God, it was just horrible for days. And so much extra sleeping, too, man. It's just oh. It's okay, get home, have this, do that. All the basic requirements met, go to bed, sleep, wake up, repeat. Ooh. Thank goodness for daycare letting me drop Zoe off a little earlier than normal. Just to get that extra hour and a half sleep before I go off to work. Oh, my goodness.
All right. Yeah, so, let me see.
But here's the thing. It's I can understand why some people would poison as opposed to trying to do, open combats or thing like he's 16 hit die. Why, you're 2 hit die. Why would you try to do that? Well, I'm not going to fight him. I mean, God, he'll kill me on the battlefield. Poisonous booze. Keep in mind, if you know what some stuff is like, you can, fairly easily, counter out, the smell and taste. There is that one joke from King of the Hill, where his dad Cotton is makes a claim for a story. I ever tell you about the time your mom tried to poison me? And she goes, it was chicken almondine, Cotton. He goes, it was cyanide, woman. Cyanide, having the crisp taste of almonds to it, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. In which case, if you know that cyanide tastes like almonds, well, I guess it's chicken almondine for you, buddy. Mask the flavor. Which suddenly makes the almond-flavored oatmeal I have in the other room that I've gotten to help myself recover to good health a little suspect.
I've never eaten cyanide myself, but I suspect it is probably pretty strong.
Well, I guess it depends on how much you mix. What's the relation?
Yeah, I guess you don't need
That's where you need the expert for. What dilutions are still effective.
Yeah.
On one level, how much do you put into the booze to kill them versus just give them a case of the squirts the next day, right?
Yeah. Because apple seeds have what? Or is that cyanide or something else?
They have micro traces. It's in 1 or 2 milligram level, and I believe it's arsenic.
Arsenic. Oh, okay.
Don't ask how I know, but yeah. As it turns out, it's okay to eat the apple seeds because your body does need a microgram of arsenic a year, sort of thing. There are some areas where your body processes actually need it, so you don't give yourself a gram of it, though. And I think it's apricot seeds. Stay away from them. More than 7 of those will kill you.
Really?
Depending on your size. Yeah.
I've never been able to eat one apricot seed, but...
well, there you go.
or pit, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's a seed, but because it's at the center of it, it's also a pit.
Okay.
They're both correct terms.
Oh.
So don't go eating them. Don't go feeding them to anyone. And don't buy them at the health food store for people who call it a cleansing thing. No. No, it's actually a toxic. It's not an antitoxin cleanser.
They sell apricot seeds?
I've seen the stuff where they got, on the bag, and all that. It's this apricot seeds, dried and processed.
So if you did want to poison somebody,
leave the bag out and make sure they got a bad snacking habit. Yeah, that's all it's going to take to kill them.
Yeah. It's not hard to obtain a poison. Just go to a health food store.
Yeah. Do a proper lure is, I guess, another aspect of a good poison. There is a type of brownie being sold that has like a sleep aid to it. You know, those advertisements they got for ZQuil, where, you know, like, I need to sleep, but, you know, like, Dayquil and NyQuil have got medicine in there, and that would be medicinal abuse. So they made just ZQuil for people who just need to crash at the end of the night without, like, doping themselves up on, like, medicines.
Okay.
This one's a brownie with the same sort of stuff in it. But it looks like a regular brownie, and there have been a number of kids sent to the hospital because a person ate part of it and then went off to go do something else before they finished, and a kid comes by and, oh boy, a brownie, I'm going to eat a brownie, yum, 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 yum. And I don't fault the kid at all. I've seen my daughter, as soon as she sees a cookie, her hand, like, she doesn't even, she's normally a very polite girl, very good on this, but as soon as she sees a cookie within reach, that hand just moves up with a sinister, slow intent. It's like, no, there's nothing stopping that hand. Is going to grab that cookie of her choice and take it back, and she's going to nibble on it. So it's a kid instinct once you find out that it's tasty, yeah. So there being some kids, it's like, oh, we can't wake up the kid that ate the sleepy brownie. So yeah, like, if you are going to do poison in your campaigns or your stories, there does have an interesting benefit of adding it to a lure. You know, like the brownie for this, or the snack, you know, for the snack addict.
But you have to be very careful to match it to the person, and not so that you're not catching, you know, their 3-year-old kid or something.
Ideally, yes, unless you're a horrible, horrible person,
yeah.
and you just don't care about the sort of collateral damage.
Yeah.
Oh. I suppose, yeah, I guess that's the difference between, I guess, a noble poisoner and just a sadistic, horrible, you know, like, asshat, right?
Okay.
The asshat's not going to care about who winds up getting poisoned in the end, whereas this is a very targeted thing. This person needs to die, and I'm going to do it this way.
Yep.
So, I'm not happy with that, but that's a way to go about it. I still think, though, it's like, it's like, I do recall way back in the day chatting with somebody online as part of the Realms of Evil group, and one of the things we were going to do for one of our future e-zines was more in-depth and more fluff rules on what stuff like poison is like. What is it like when you get poisoned with arsenic? What are the stuff you experience? So that way, if you want to role-play it, the same way that 3rd edition had ways that, like, you could just roll on, you know, this table to see what sort of mental side effects happen to you when you go insane, or you could just role-play it. So while you use, like, okay, you've been poisoned, roll to find out what sort of side effects of this poison are doing on you for random, made-up, non-existent poison. Or, it's arsenic, here's what you need to know about role-playing, you know, arsenic poisoning.
Mm.
Which I thought would have been absolutely boss. Because then you could have had, like, arsenic and have, like, 3 different tables of different effects of how it, like, gets to you sort of thing, and just role-play through that.
Yeah.
Based on, you know, its concentration and what it does to you at those various levels.
All right, yeah.
I think it would make for a very good splat book, personally. Although it might be slow reading for me, because after the food poisoning, I think I'd have some deep sympathy going on with it. And it's like, oh, I'm starting to get a little, like, lightheaded just reading this stuff, man.
Oh, yeah.
At least until I make a full recovery and I can put it behind me in the long-term memory.
Mm-hmm.
But what about you, Josh? Like in your campaigns and your stories, where does poison, if any, have a role?
Well, I should probably use it more often. Yeah, like I was saying, I don't love it as the most efficient way of killing somebody, because I think there's a lot that can go wrong, and you need expertise, and you don't want to poison yourself, and you don't want to poison your pets while you're mixing up some poison. Unless
the reason you got the pet was to test its efficacy.
I suppose, yeah. Okay.
I mean, like, what if you buy the poison off somebody, and it's like when you buy, like, oh, yeah, man, I bought a lot of cocaine off the drug dealer. It's like, no, man, that is like laundry detergent. You horrible noob.
And I will say, my problem with the Game of Thrones use of poison is that it often does seem very easy to obtain and very easy to target it to the right person.
Keep in mind, the people using the poison do tend to have decent financial resources with which to hire the experts with which to poison. This is how you do it. This is where you want to do it. So when I'm selling you the poison, it's not like you just...
I guess so, yeah.
It's not like
nobles.
Not like you just took like some arrows, you know, like from your quiver and just like rubbed them in animal dung.
Yeah.
Which is historically a viable tactic.
Yeah.
It's a
yeah.
dick move amongst dick moves, but it's a tactic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you're right that I think it occurs, especially the kind of people I like to tell stories about, they would probably think, oh, well, they'll think of poison as a better
viable
tactic
alternative
than I think of it as. Like, I don't think it's a good, I wouldn't recommend using poison.
I recommend it from a storytelling perspective for suspense.
I guess, yeah, as a moral person, I can never recommend poison, but just even recommending for my bad guys to sort of use it, I don't think it's that effective. But I can imagine I would have characters who would think it was effective and try to poison. They would probably, in my stories, they would probably fail. Or in D&D, I guess you have saving throws, so that's you have a chance
unless you
saving.
wind up having a prestige class for 3rd edition where you wind up being some sort of typhoid Mary where you're your blood is poisonous now because you just handle it so dang often and it's going to happen to you, but now you just carry it, you're immune to it through gradual, repetitious, injections.
Yeah, but what I would like to see what I would have liked to see. Well, maybe you can't, and maybe it slows the story down a lot. But I would like to see some failed poisonings, just from time to time. The
hand
Game
of the king
Thrones.
is dead, and so has fallen ill themselves because the poisoner poisoned themselves just a little bit in the process, and now John Aaron, the hand of the king is dead of the same poison, and it's just a matter of dosage. Yeah. Why did this person go on a retreat after their death? It wasn't in mourning. It's because they were the poisoner.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I remember if there was an example of that in Game of Thrones.
Well, you don't necessarily need to use it for. You don't necessarily need to use it for Game of Thrones itself. I mean, we could work with we'll make a generic sort of version of it, where you could have it be transmitted through some very interesting means. You don't necessarily need to toss it in someone's drink, or put on an arrow and puncture them with it. Mm-hmm. Game of Thrones shows a lot of scenes in whorehouses, and it's got a lot of nipple exposure in there.
Yeah, a prostitute could probably deliver a poison to somebody somehow. Yeah.
How? Well, you could do it sort of thing.
How? This is not that kind of podcast.
Well, no, but that's the thing. It's for the purposes of storytelling, you could make it a very interesting scene as to how it goes in. Because let's face it, it's never about the outcome. It's about the how. How did it happen? That makes a story. You're pretty certain that the good guys win in the end of most stories and the bad guys lose. And it's why bother reading most stories? It's the how that makes it interesting. So in this case, you could have it be that she has painted fingernails, long fingernails, and it winds up being that when she rakes her nails down the gentleman's back, bam, poison's in there. It could be the type of poison that needs a time to digest. When I was food poisoned, I was wondering, why did I not throw this up immediately? Why did I really start feeling this when, according to, based on my biology, it started hitting the intestinal area?
Well, food poisoning, isn't poison. It's bacteria that's in the food, and then
I have a few reasons to suspect that it might not be food for food poisoning. It might have been something else that happened to me from an outside, non-biological source.
What were you eating? Oh, okay.
No. Like I said, it might be just this is expired sort of thing here, or versus, just I may have done it to myself. Maybe it was food, but
did you drink some turpentine or something?
No, or at least not to my knowledge. But soap, improperly cleaned dishes can count.
Yeah, but the way how that works though is the improperly cleaned dishes have bacteria on them.
No, in this case the soap, where you clean it with a lot of soap but don't properly rinse it off afterwards.
Oh, okay,
the soap
that
itself can be, in this case, effectively a poison. So if it had been something like I had washed my hands with a lot of soap, my wife had scented hand soaps, and then I didn't properly rinse it all off, and then later I have a little hand food and get that into my system. When it breaks down, it could be very toxic. Pretty certain it's not supposed to, but I'm just going to use that as an example.
I don't think a trace amount of soap would do that.
I have some very powerful soaps in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You have special poison soap.
Well, that's the thing is my wife has a soap that's much harder. It's to help exfoliate skin better that way for people that have tougher skin than others. Works great on the feet. Oh my goodness, does it help clear up the smooth the feet out. But if I was washing that and I had it on my hands, and then later I'm washing my face and got a little bit in my mouth, that is a very potent soap in there. That's not your regular soap. So I'll just use soap as one of my things of like, it may have been this.
Okay.
Based on various reactions, like smelling the soap sort of thing in the morning. Oh, God, I'm going to vomit in the shower sort of thing. I can't even handle that stuff. Is to how my body reacted. One of my suspicions is a soap. So, yes, soap counts as a poison in that regard, too. Sometimes it needs a breakdown. So you could say, for the lady, she had, like either a perfume on her or, like even, like a soap, sort of thing where it doesn't affect her on the skin. But the second, the guy starts, caressing and nibbling at her body, he winds up ingesting the poison, and bam, not just rapidly within the next 6 hours. It takes time to digest and break down. It'd be 24 hours later, much longer than most people would think a poison, could hit the stomach and hurt a person, is when it gets them, when it breaks down, because it's not an immediate poison. Which is why I was wondering, why did I not just throw this up, a couple hours after, if this is food poisoning, why did it hit the, the intestine, deep in the intestinal tract? Why not then and why not there? So yeah, you could make a great scene about it as her nipples were poisoned all along. Because, she had a body lotion or whatever on her.
Yeah, sure.
That sort of thing. Or maybe it was just, she wound up slipping him something more than just a Mickey in his drink.
Yeah, and I suppose, in a magical world, yeah, you can sort of have fantasy poisons and just have them do whatever you want them to do. I think it would be, I guess it's not impossible, but yeah, it's difficult to transfer.
Or you could have a variation on the Medusa where she's not a supernatural creature at all, but rather a lady who poisons men with a poison that, causes them to turn to stone in that regard. She is the Medusa.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I suppose if you want it to be even more mundane, it just causes immediate rigor mortis. They're still alive while effectively petrified as they slowly waste away, locked up in their form. Does that not sound like a very sinister, evil character? She poisons you, and then you're stuck in that form, and then you're stuck in there until you die of starvation. Think about that, man. That's a good villain. From the perspective of a villain that you'd want to hate.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't be good at all. So yeah, I think from what I've learned this week is that poison sucks horribly. But thanks to Game of Thrones, it has proven to me at the same time to be a very good storytelling apparatus in this regard. So, as much as I hated being poisoned myself, I can say very much I can understand people wanting to do this to someone else when they don't have the power to inflict it through torture or on the battlefield. I can see a weaker person, a physically weaker person getting their vengeance this way.
All right. Yeah, being poisoned sucks.
Yeah. That's my final thought for this week. I'll say that much. Oh.
Cool. I suppose, I'll go into social media. If people want to contact us, they can write us emails. thesimulationist@gmail.com is where you can write emails. We're on facebook.com/thesimulationist, where you can chat with other fans of The Simulationist. Not a lot of traffic there, but hopefully we'll build it up in the future and keep it going.
Be the first. Be our bedrock.
Yeah, and youtube.com/thesimulationist is these files just go up there, but you can comment there as well. You can follow me at Josh_Trelaffin, TRESLAFFIN, and send us, subscribe in iTunes, send us reviews, or write reviews on iTunes, give us as many stars as you think we deserve, and tell a friend in real life.
Yeah. If you think this, if you want to utilize someone who poisons another person in the game, and your DM says, no, man, no, send them this one here. Maybe think there's room for poison. They might be against it personally, but that doesn't mean it can't have a good role in a campaign.
Very true. And also, I mentioned our archives a while ago. I believe they're still all available.
And it's not a limited time only, man. This stuff is it's like an open library for you to peruse.
Yeah, so anytime you just go back into our archive and check out, what was the one I mentioned? The Walrus Yes episode when we talked about Tusk. That was a good one, and yeah.
Well, we had good inspiration on that one, I still claim.
I see. Yeah, so I think that's all.
So I said my final thoughts. Poison sucks, but it has a use.
Yeah.
What about you?
I had one other thing to mention though, and that is that yes, in modern times we have, a lot of knowledge about how poisons, actually affect the body, and I think like Russian spies have developed pretty good methods of delivering poison.
Polonium. They got away with polonium poisoning.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but I guess there are odorless.
On the one hand, damn,
poisons.
that's horrible. On the other hand, wow, you guys got away with it. That's skill. I can respect that while not liking it.
Yeah. I was down on poisons a little bit earlier, but I think in the right hands, in the hands of sort of an expert poisoner who is a good chemist and knows what they're doing, and delivers it right. I think it is. Well, I'm not going to say it's 100% effective either, but I know that it has worked. It occasionally works. Sometimes it fails, though. That's the other thing. Sometimes a poisoning attempt, even by experts, will fail. That's why I think it's not. I don't recommend it, even if you are evil.
Okay, here's a notion for you. The person who got polonium poisoning died pretty quickly, but with a different radioactive isotope, it could have lasted longer.
Mm-hmm.
So what if, for a rule for poisoning that keeps things fairly simple, is you take poison damage from poisoning, as per the regular rules, but without some sort of outside source or help, you cannot heal those hit points. You require either magic or a specific counter agent, otherwise you are permanently down those hit points as you are that much weaker.
I would
or you recover it at a much slower rate than normal.
I would be fine with that, as a bonus component in poisons,
to keep things at least somewhat streamlined, but still make poison a little bit more dangerous.
I wouldn't apply that to every poison, but I would create a variant poison, absolutely, that had that effect, and it would be consequently more expensive.
Oh yes, this would be like a one-time special poison use sort of thing.
Yeah,
not just available in every major metropolitan medieval city.
Although now that I think about it, yeah, does the effectiveness of poison actually coincide with its cost and general availability?
Throughout the previous editions, the more potent it was, the more expensive it was, the more rare it was.
Yeah. But sort of in the real world, I guess we don't have the same. I mean, poison can generally be expensive, especially in the modern world where it's illegal.
Is bleach?
Well, you can always get bleach.
Yeah.
But it's hard to make someone swallow bleach.
Yeah, the smell of it is pretty bad.
It's hard. It's possible.
But that's the thing. It's just not just because it's just not easy doesn't mean it's still not quite cheap.
Yeah.
You could kill somebody very easily by forcing down some bleach in their stomach.
Yeah, but while we're killing people
horrible
easily,
things,
how about a steak knife? Well,
they're not suffering enough then.
Oh, okay.
Poisoning is the art of the people that want someone to suffer.
I see. Yeah, I think you could make someone suffer with a steak knife.
Well, yeah.
We're going pretty dark at the end of this episode, but.
But okay, yeah. So poisoning. You take we'll say this week I took 4 points of poison damage, and it took me 1 day per point of natural healing. Regardless of 5th edition's rules about this, the poisoning stuff only heals back 1 point per day unless you get some sort of outside source, like a counter agent or magical healing, which I sadly do not have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That said, I do have some access to some nice, hopefully cyanide oats, and it's just almond, and some yogurt. So I think that'll help me very, very well.
Okay.
So, woo! Until then, I've been Ryan Kirkby.
I've been Josh 11.
Take care.